At the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, one of the world's top strategic conclaves, on the sidelines of that meeting, India's top military chief, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Anil Chauhan, has made some big statements, including taking head on Pakistan's claims of downed Indian jets, a claim that, in the way that Pakistan has expressed it, General Chauhan has dismissed as absolutely incorrect. But General Anil Chauhan did also make some comments on tactical mistakes that he says were made, remedied, rectified in the first day in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor strike on terror bases inside Pakistan. He went on to say, thereafter, Indian jets flew, all of them again, firing at long range, and how he has revealed how India was able to hit and destroy air bases deep inside Pakistan. I'm Barkha Dutt. You're with the Mojo story. On the program today, India's top military chief, General Anil Chauhan, the Chief of Defense Staff, has made some very, very important comments and remarks to global media. General Chauhan was attending the Shangri-La Dialogue, one of the world's top strategic conclaves. He was asked by more than one global media network to respond to Pakistan claims of downed jets. General Chauhan took this question head on. He said that Pakistan's claims of 6 downed jets was absolutely incorrect. I'm quoting the general here. But he went on to say the number of jets that may have taken some damage were not important. What was important is what he said was a tactical mistake that was rectified, remedied in such a way that Indian jets were able to fly again, all of them in 2 days, firing at long range. General Chauhan opened up about a number of aspects of Operation Sindoor, including how he said that there was now incontrovertible evidence that air bases deep inside Pakistan had been savaged by Indian armed forces. Now, we're going to be looking at the import of General Chauhan's remarks. Remember, there's a certain section of international media that's been obsessed with this question. Today, India's top general has taken them on head on. Let me introduce two of our very distinguished experts on the program today. Air Marshal Sunil Nanodkar is with us, military veteran. Good to see you, sir. And also joining us is Gen Raj Shukla. And it's always a pleasure to have a former army commander and two fine minds on strategic affairs with us. Without further ado, let me play out this clip that General Chauhan is now viral, a comment that General Chauhan made in a longish interview to Bloomberg TV. Take a look.
General, there's still one unanswered question since the incident between Pakistan and India, and that is whether or not Pakistan downed an Indian jet, or in fact more than that. Can you confirm?
I think what is important is that not the jet being down, but why they were being down.
But a jet, why? At least one jet was downed?
Yeah. Why they were. So the good part is that we are able to understand the tactical mistake which we made, remedy it, rectify it, and then implement it again after 2 days, and flew all our jets, again targeting at long range, which I said.
Pakistan claims 6 Indian jets were downed. Is it correct in that estimate?
Absolutely incorrect, and that is not information which I said is important. What is important is why they went down. That is more important for us. And what did we do after that? That's more important.
So that is the Chief of Defense Staff speaking to Bloomberg TV, calling the specific claim by Pakistan of 6 downed jets to be absolutely incorrect, not getting into the specific number of losses, but saying what is more important is that all tactical mistakes were remedied. All our jets flew again and fired at long range. Now, I want to get reactions to this. General Shukla, we will start with you and then come to Air Marshal. General Chauhan, in a separate interview to Reuters, also speaks about how air bases deep inside Pakistan were destroyed. He speaks of incontrovertible evidence and satellite images, but somehow Western media has latched on to this question. Actually, Air Marshal Bharti said something similar during the military briefings. This is being seen as General Chauhan saying ABC for the first time. But even Air Marshal Bharti said very clearly, look, it's a combat. Losses will happen, but all our pilots are home. Today, General Chauhan has elaborated a bit further. He has said that numbers are not important. Pakistan's claim is wrong. But any tactical mistakes that were made were rectified in such a way that the jets were all able to fly again and fire at long range. And then, of course, he goes on to talk about the military successes in how Pakistan's air bases were destroyed. What is the significance of General Chauhan's statement as both of you see it? I'll start with you, General Shukla.
See, my reaction, Barkha, is thank God at long last he has spoken. 20 days after the incident, he has spoken. There is an African proverb which goes something like this, that unless the lions have their own historians, the story of the hunt will always favor the hunter. So I think in this Indo-Pakistani hunt, we have discovered a historian who is General Anil Chauhan, and he has found his voice. I wish he had done this so many days earlier. I'll tell you why. You see, Operation Sindoor, as I have been saying, and I'm through this, let me also message this so-called Western audience and this Western narrative. Operation Sindoor, through Operation Sindoor, India has discovered the utility of force. As you also said in your initial statement, this was a masterly leveraging of the escalatory ladder, in the course of which we found we had a very robust AD wall. We hit the heart of Punjab. His air infra was considerably damaged. He was decimated. Look at the airfields which were hit. Noor Khan, Sargoda, I think Murshid. We hit his F-16s, or possibly an AVAX. His command and control system. So I also say, and let me ask you this, Barkha, since 71, have you seen such a outstanding military victory? In fact, people call it a skirmish. I would say that the military escalation went so rapidly in our favor that what could have been a conflict was condensed into a skirmish. Pakistan had no options left. It was naked, vulnerable, and exposed. If we had gone on for another 48 hours, what may have happened? And this was when the real flank of decision, the maritime flank, in a very formidable, domineering posture, was not even unleashed. And the only thing that perhaps, when you're on a boxing bout, you're going to get some bruises. Something went wrong, or we took a knock on the first night. Now, see what has happened. If this whole operation was 4 nights, 3 nights we were unchallenged. 1 night something went wrong, and by delaying the narrative, see what happened. Pakistan has gone all over the West. Some truth, most fiction, has given you six jets, where they were down, pilot, location, make, fact, and fiction. And that narrative has hardened in the West. Let me also say something, on a lighter note. Have you watched the DG ISPR? He's gone on CNN, BBC, and with great respect for him, he speaks wrong English. His grammar is wrong. His syntax is faulty. And yet, look at his confidence, the bluster. So here is a nation decimated, and with somebody like DG ISPR, to an uninformed West, plasters an untrue narrative, and the West buys it. This is the supreme irony. And our only mistake is, having done so well in everything, militarily having done well, this time the military narrative, in terms of flashing imagery, which bases were hit, it was near perfect. Unlike Balakot, we rectified all our mistakes of Balakot. Such a great operation, and just because of some hesitancy on admitting to the knock or something that went wrong on the first night, which always will in a war, this is what has happened. So what does this tell us? And just 30 seconds more before I hand over the floor to the Air Marshal. We need a DG Stratcom. I hope the CDS appoints him in 2 weeks. Somebody who a 3-star in the IDS, and not this thing of Air Force saying their piece, Army saying their piece, Navy saying their piece. This is not a joint force. A joint force should have a DG Stratcom, somebody very close to the CDS who's in the full operational know, like the DG ISPR, and confidently gives out a minute-by-minute narrative. And may I also say this, look at our hesitancy. Even when this all-party delegation went, and it went a little late when the narrative had already been hardened, but there was not a single military voice on that platform as part of that panel. See, what does it do in a military operation? Unless you have military minds, unless you have military personas articulating that narrative, it doesn't, resonate as much. So this great hesitancy of us, of this, this piece of our in our strategic outlook, that the military is only supposed to act and not supposed to speak. I mean, in our younger days, we were told, act, you don't talk. Now that has come somehow hardened into this whole thing of doing a very thing well. Just 1 minute, Barkha, of doing things very well and being a little coy about the narrative. Otherwise,
Yeah.
this is a operation, almost, shall I say, blemishless, and Pakistan knows it. And look what he does. In that stupid way, when you lose, you go and in that very phony manner escalate Asim Munir to Field Marshal. I mean, ridiculous. So here we were sober, substantive, and powerful. Pakistan was puerile, dodgy, battered, and yet in that one piece they won that narrative because of our hesitancies. So I wish we had
Yeah.
corrected it much earlier, and it would have been that much to our advantage.
Yeah, yeah. Just briefly before I come to the Air Marshal, I think what you're saying is, and Air Marshal Bharti alluded to this in his briefing, General Shukla. He said it's a combat. There will be losses, but all our pilots came home.
Yes.
The important thing is, one, General Chauhan says it's absolutely incorrect to Pakistan's claim of 6 downed jets. Secondly, he actually says tactical mistakes, if any, on the first day were remedied, rectified, so that all our jets flew again and fired at long range, right? So, General Shukla, you're saying कि पहले ही दिन ये बोल देना चाहिए था.
If you wanted to, corroborate things, 2 days, but certainly before the Pakistani narrative penetrated the international mind space.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
took full advantage of it. And now let me tell you, this Western narrative, let them answer two things. If Pakistan did so well, where were the J-10s? Where were the J-17Cs? Where was the famous PL-15 on the 3 nights? They were scurrying for cover, Barkha. They were scurrying for cover when they were being hit. This Grand Fizaya was not able to fly, far from flying combat missions. The
Yeah.
intelligent people in the West should ask these questions. This is the issue. Even when it comes to this nuclear theology business, I mean, Kissinger would roll over in his grave. What is this
Yeah.
nuclear theology story that under a nuclear cover you go on a terror rampage? And I'm told the West is concerned. I mean, the West should rap the Pakistanis on their head.
Yeah.
Bhai, ye kaun si wo
Let
hai?
let let's get to the nuclear question, because I have another clip of General Chauhan. But first, Air Marshal on this so-called downed jets obsession, near obsession in Western media. I think what General Shukla is saying is, isko pehle hi bol dete, address it head on, so that Pakistan did not get the chance at disinformation. Now, I want you to explain to a lay audience. General Chauhan has said numbers are not important, so he's not specified the number even now. He has said that there could have been a tactical mistake which was rectified, remedied. And then I want you to explain this statement. He says, all our jets flew again. All our jets flew again. Now, I took this to mean a downed jet does not mean necessarily a damaged jet. I don't know if I'm overreading. I was not sure how to read this comment. But a jet that has to pull back maybe from its mission temporarily doesn't mean it can't get back into the mission, is what I understood it to mean. I don't know how you're the expert. How do you read General Chauhan's comments?
Yeah, Barkha, first of all, thank you very much for having me over. To an extent, agree with General Raj Shukla regarding the timing of whatever has been put across in the public domain. But let's go back to what Air Marshal Bharti said when he was briefing and leading to what the CDS has said today. Uh, this is a war. We all know that, and we are testing in actual scenario. This is a time when actually your capability against enemy capability gets tested. So when you're flying your jets, when you're firing your missiles, when you're defending yourself in the air, you are actually putting your tactics across in the air against the enemy's capability as per your assessment. And therefore, in such a scenario, what the CDS has said that some tactical errors were done, and those were studied, and we put back our entire force on the day three. As I read this statement in totality, yeah, we put our plans in place based on whatever was the task given to the services and particularly to the Air Force, and they were, as we see it and hear it now from none other than CDS, that okay, what Pakistan is claiming 6 aircraft and all, that's not true. So we take that number is below 6. Once the aircraft is down, and suppose, as per the claims of media, particularly the Western media and the brief of DGISPR, if the Rafale was down, now if the Rafale was put down, Rafale in action by India has been put forward for the first time. So, if in our employment of Rafale in its entire envelope, weapons that we have got, if there has been certain assessment error in terms of what is Pakistan's capability in terms of defying us, the freedom of utilizing platform like Rafale in targeting, if there was any tactical error, those errors were studied quickly, and for that point in time, those platforms may not have been utilized for subsequent operations in the near future when we had this issue, and thereafter, the whole thing has been rectified, and these platforms are employed. Is what I gather from the way
Correct.
CDS has
Correct.
briefed. So,
Sorry, so
therefore,
hang on.
yeah,
Sorry, so
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah,
You're
go ahead.
saying something very important. Can I request you to actually reconnect because there's a huge crackle in your line, but you're saying something so important that it needs to be repeated very clearly. You're actually saying, and General Shukla, maybe you can help elaborate. What I've understood is what Air Marshal is saying is that it could be that the Rafales were redeployed, or whatever. He's not specified that they were Rafales, right? He has actually not specified that they were Rafales. Could you actually elaborate on what it actually means, this comment that, let me read it out again: tactical mistakes remedied, all our jets flew again and fired at long range.
So, I'm doing just an absolutely, what shall I say, open sourced analysis of what may have
Mhm.
gone wrong. We may have not estimated correctly the number of HQ9s that he had, the range that the HQ9s had. So their pickup ranges, you make these mistakes. So perhaps when we went up initially, and the way the strike package operates, the AD package operates, the AD package is more vulnerable. So maybe we took a knock, but thereafter we recovered swiftly. And the larger question that the West must ask themselves, if they have any intelligence left, what happened on the other 3 nights? Where was the
That's right.
famous J10, J17C, and PL15? In fact, this has also exposed two things. One is that we need not fear the PLA so much if this is what their equipment is, or
Yeah.
we need not fear the Pakis if they can't leverage that equipment well. And all this cognitive warfare of the PLA, that they have got drone motherships, J36, all that
Mm.
now to me sounds like a whole lot of social media fluff. But the moot point is this, that since we did not respond in narrative form to the events of the first night with greater alacrity, Pakistan filled it in with all kinds of nonsense. So they filled it with nonsense, and the West, as usual, is a little innocent about these things, ill informed, buys that narrative. In fact, I have carefully gone through all the articles from the West, so called, which are balanced. I mean, they just don't go into the basics. There is no clarity in their whole understanding. And my thing, in a very perfect operation, the only thing that was perhaps a little less than wise was delaying this fact which the CDS came up with today. If we had done it many days earlier, I won't know what the real reasons are. Maybe there are weightier
Mm.
reasons which I'm not aware of. This is the only reason why that narrative, we seem to be
You,
losing that narrative.
one more question. Walter Ladwick, who is at King's College, he had a compared to other Western papers, a pretty nuanced and balanced perspective, General Shukla. And one of the things he said was that on the first night, India's pilots took great operational risk to make sure that nothing but the terror bases were struck. I'm talking about the original first leg of Operation Sindoor. And he said that that restraint is admirable because operational risk was taken by pilots. So I think that also needs to be stressed.
So
Air Marshal,
absolutely.
if
So
you, yeah, sorry, you want to say something,
yeah,
General Shukla?
I
Go
want to
ahead.
say something very quickly. Of course,
Yeah.
now see, when we go into the deeper reasons, when we analyze the conflict, one is this: the position that we took was that we wanted to, this comes from statecraft, that we will hit only terror and not military targets. So this is political military congruence, which will happen in any conflict. That is one. The other issue that we must take lesson immediately from this is that if we had invested greater in unmanned platforms, the first strike could have been done by unmanned platforms, very high
Hmm.
quality drones, and you would not have exposed your piloted platforms to this kind of risk. So you learn from every operation, you grow in every operation. There is strategic evolution. So those issues are definitely there. But you keep Walter aside. My bigger quarrel is with the other balanced Western people.
Yes,
I mean, I really
yes,
want to
yes.
debate. Don't you see the overwhelming evidence? I mean, somebody said just a few holes in the runways, so many holes that the Fizaya was decimated. It was flying
Correct.
backwards and not forward. Now, this is exactly that ill-informed, puerile stuff which masquerades as intellectual brilliance. I have a problem with that.
Absolutely. So do I. Let me get Air Marshal. I hope, Air Marshal, can you hear me? So,
Yeah, yeah, I
Air
can
Marshal,
hear you.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay,
you.
your audio is
I
a
can
little
hear
bit
you.
better. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
your audio is a
I can
little
hear
bit
you.
better, sir. You hold that up, sir. We can hear you better if you hold that up.
Yeah, yeah,
Sir,
yeah.
you were explaining to us that a downed jet is a phrase used by Pakistan. It's not a phrase used by India. सबसे पहले तो ये जरूरी है कहना. Secondly, this tactical mistake, General Chauhan goes on to say all our jets flew again and fired at long range. It sounded to me that platforms that had to be pulled back would have been redeployed. I could be wrong. How did you read this statement? Am I wrong, sir, General
Yeah, see,
Shukla? Am I wrong?
yeah, actually, uh, pull
I just
back.
didn't understand the statement. That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, what I read about platforms being pulled back is see, there is nothing pulling back. I don't think any
Oh,
of
that's
these
my language.
Scott.
That's my language.
Yeah,
That's my language. It's not the general's language. That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
language.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, I'm saying that none of these aircraft were pulled back. None of the squadrons were pulled back. The aircraft is, suppose it is down. We have a situation where we have not been able to assess as to why we lost an aircraft in combat. So temporarily, you're taking a pause in terms of employment of that platform. So the other things will carry on
I see. I
doing
see.
the job. So
I see.
yeah, so because on day two also, the certain targets were taken on, and day three was a massive strike right into the interiors of mainland Pakistan, right across the IB and
So
targets
what
which
you're saying,
were
so
in
what
depth.
you're saying sorry, sir. I'm interrupting you only because your audio is not great. So I'm trying to summarize it. What you're saying, and it's clear to me now, what you're saying is that maybe on the first night when this tactical mistake is made, let's say hypothetically, it's whatever plane, Sukhoi, Mirage, Rafale, doesn't matter. Basically, that platform can be used again. That platform, not that particular jet, that platform can be used again once tactics are recalibrated. Am I correct in understanding this, Marshal? Hey, Marshalls, the network is terrible. General Shukla, do you want to just jump in there? Can we unmute General Shukla? Yeah, sir.
I think, Barkha, you're overreading. That's not what the CDS meant. What he meant was that those manned platforms, they may have been, pulled back momentarily, but they corrected those mistakes, the perhaps tactics, the ranges at which they were deployed, and they were launched. And they were launched because the success of that launch comes from this imagery that you are showing. This is not
Yeah,
only BrahMos, this is the scalp hammer from air-delivered platforms. But I want
yeah.
to point out to you, look at the quality of the strategic commentary on Pak channels. I was watching one channel. So he says,
Hmm,
भाई ये आसिम मुनीर को फील्ड मार्शल क्यों बनाया? तो कहते हैं वो जो
hmm.
पिछला जनरल था ना बाजवा, when that guy was being released, Abhinandan.
Hmm.
So he was actually pleading कि भाई इसको छोड़ दो नहीं तो वो ब्रह्मोस हमको मारेंगे और उसके पैर कांप रहे थे उस टाइम कम से कम आसिम के पैर तो नहीं कांपे इस बार तो फॉर पैर नॉट कांपोइंग यू मेक फ्री मार्च सो आई एम सेइंग बोथ द वेस्ट and our Pakistani friends, please raise the quality of your commentary. Come to Mojo. We'll have better discussion.
Absolutely.
Honestly. And see, now there are very substantive lessons to be drawn from this. For example, Air Power has done very well, but we must not be arrogant. They are getting those stealth jets. They are getting some more HQ9s. They may hit back after 9 months. So I'm not one to underrate Pak Fizaya. It's done pretty well in the past. But this time it has been a complete military victory. What must we do with our air power? We must shall I say, upgrade our capacities in space, in precisionary, so that next time, as I say, we shouldn't be taking out the brother-in-laws of Masood Azhar, but Masood Azhar himself. And once you come to that kind of stuff, this terror factory will close.
I want to ask you something before I play out the next clip of General Chauhan. You made the point that delaying a response to this allowed Pakistan to fill that vacuum with lies, and I agree with you. But to be fair, Air Marshal Bharti did say losses will happen in any combat situation. Not important. All our pilots are home, right? He did say that. General Chauhan has been even more transparent in saying, yeah, there may have been a tactical recalibration that was needed after the first day. We made it, and we were able to deploy all our platforms, all our jets, as he says. Do you think in retrospect, this could have been more? Because how does it matter? It doesn't matter. As you said, in a boxing bout, there are going to be bruises. How can you fight without getting your hands dirty? You can't, right? What do you think, do you think the communication should have just been more head-on, pehle din se?
Yeah, so you see, let me try and give you an example. There is a fight in the courtyard of a school between A and B. Now that A wins, he actually bashes B, but because he wins, or such is his nature, that he stays back in the courtyard. And B, who's actually battered, bruised, hammered, he runs to the teacher and says, "Main jeet gaya, lekin," that whole narrative business. Now, this is something which has happened in our case. I'm making this point. It was such a perfect military operation. And our own media is now saying that the narrative was imperfect. In fact, when the government sends the all-party delegation, it says that the narrative was imperfect. One of the imperfections of the narrative was this. What General Chauhan said today could have been said by Air Marshal Bharti on the day he gave the interview. It was the same thing. When you delay it for so long, crooks like DG ISPR, who are less than honest, and I will repeat, whose English is absolutely, you must listen to his English. You will.
Yeah.
So competence, but complete bluster. भाई अगर मेरी इंग्लिश इतनी कमजोर हो मैं बीबीसी हिंदी पे ना जाऊं बीबीसी उर्दू पे ना जाऊं वो जनाब तो जाके बैठ गए बीबीसी इंग्लिश पे सो poor work, poor language, and there you get the narrative. And today I have a bigger quarrel with the West. ये वेस्ट के कौन है सज्जन सामने तो लाइए who are intellectually so shall I say shallow कि you can't make out of what happened on the first day. And see, Barkha, if the results had been otherwise, I wouldn't have said it. But I have very carefully analyzed everything, read a whole lot of stuff. On those 4 nights, at the end of it, they were virtually decimated. They didn't know what to do. Otherwise, where were the J10s? Where were the J17s? And I'm sure serious analysts in PLA will be asking the parties, why did you bring our J10s to such shame? Why did you put our J17s to such shame? आप कुछ कर ही नहीं पाए.
Bilkul. I want to play out one more clip of General Chauhan. This is on battle below the nuclear threshold, and I'm sure you'll want to react to this. Take a look.
Now that satellite images for all the strikes are available, not only through Indian media, but from global sources, and you would have seen that most of the strikes were delivered with pinpoint accuracy, some even to a meter, to whatever was our selected mean point of impact. So we were quite certain that none of them will go astray and they'll land at the places where we desired them. There's a lot of space before that nuclear threshold is crossed. A lot of signaling before that. I think nothing like that happened. Over a period of time, as I said in a couple of other meetings, that there's a lot of space for conventional operations which has been created, and this will be the new norm.
Right. So I want your sense on that. He's saying there was no nuclear signaling. We have seen, reports now, including by air warfare experts like Tom Cooper saying, India may have struck the gates of an underground nuclear storage facility. That may have been the turning point, etc. We have not said that officially, but this idea of battle below the nuclear threshold, General Chauhan saying there was no nuclear signaling. How do you read these comments? This was in an interview to Reuters.
No, see, this is the whole point of the Indian military. As the Indian military grows, it will be precise and lethal, yet it will be restrained and responsible. Now, this is something which is beyond the Pak military. So, what are we saying? And I'll give you just repeat that example of Kalu Chak. India
Mhm.
mobilized for war. Kalu Chak is hit. Such a grave provocation. And what happens? Just as Prime Minister Vajpayee speaks of our par ki ladai, here come Hamid and Kidwai wave the nuclear rattle. Washington is scandalized, pull out people from the embassy here, businesses exit. And we are told, listen, he is, a troublemaker, but you please be responsible. So the perpetrator is protected and the aggrieved is told, you be responsible. This is exactly what the Pakistanis perfected very well. And this time, through some very good generalship, General Chauhan and the three chiefs must get credit, the political leadership must get credit. We kept the whole operational framework short of those red lines. We are telling Pakistan, yes, nuclear weapons are a reality. We know what the red lines are, but we will orchestrate the battle to keep it short. And more, today we are not a blunt instrument, as General Chauhan was pointing out. We have precision strike capacities. We will hit with precision, yet not touch your nuclear weapons, which means that we have created space. So, what is the outcome? Terror, which was a low cost option for Pakistan, has now become a high cost option. Next time they decide to send a few guys across, they will know that Noor Khan pe hamla hoga, Sargoda pe hamla hoga. So, you make a choice. So, this
You
is
know,
really the geopolitical outcome and therefore I reiterate, Operational Sindoor has underlined the utility of force.
Absolutely. I want to just, as a young reporter, I covered the Kaluchak massacre. But for those who don't remember, uh, it was a terror attack in which children in particular were targeted, and 10 children were killed, 8 women were killed because the family quarters of an army camp were actually entered. And, it is unforgettable. I still remember those little dresses and toys of children, which is what we used to tell that chilling account. So this is how long India has been dealing with this when it comes to Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. General Shukla, what for you is the biggest import of the fact that General Chauhan, the Chief of Defense Staff, goes to Singapore, makes these comments to global networks? Can we finally hope that global networks will get it, or are they going to keep obsessing about, Pakistan's claims on downed jets while missing the real story, which is a devastation to Pakistan's air bases?
There are two, three things. One is, कि India ने, we have overcome one of our hesitancies. वो क्या था कि भाई जुल्म वो करता था, शर्माए हम जाते थे. इस बार कम से कम हम शर्माए नहीं. जब उसने जुल्म
Hmm.
किया, हमने जवाब दिया. So this is one metric of evolution. The second metric is, your actions must speak louder than your words. So speak softly, but carry a big stick. That is important. But we must understand how this world has changed into cognitive warfare, narration. This, I think, our armed forces are a little slow. General Rawat, when he did this great reorganization of army headquarters, we created an appointment of DGIW, Information Warfare. And then, for some strange reason, after he relinquished the appointment, the one appointment we suppressed was DGIW. It comes from a whole thing that we are fighters. We fight. We don't need somebody to narrate. Now,
Yeah.
this is something we have to grow out of. And let me make an appeal to General Chauhan. Please, within 2 weeks, appoint a DG Stratcom. somebody
Absolutely.
who's articulate, who understands the battle space. And now this is, how the Indian armed forces must grow. And the officers of tomorrow cannot be content being good soldiers, sailors, and airmen. They have to grow, have a wider view of national security. They have to be national security professionals who have an understanding of geopolitics, technology, and this stuff so that they articulate the narration very well. And if we don't do it, who will? So
Absolutely.
our military grows in stature and sophistication. The narration prowess,
And I think, and I think the other great point that you made is that I think military personnel, veterans, should have been sent on the delegations that have traveled abroad, because our MPs
I mean,
cannot answer questions,
not
technical
because
questions.
I'm or somebody want to go, but you must see value in the military officer going, not because I want to go. आपको कहना चाहिए कि भाई
Absolutely.
आइए, because the military has been so central to this. Now this we have to grow out of our outdated, shall we say, norms of civil military control. That's a deeper debate.
Absolutely. I agree really with everything you've said. Do pardon us for some very civilian type questions if we ask them to try and understand what General Chauhan meant. But I couldn't agree with you more. Communication can never hurt. Communication can only help and be a force multiplier in warfare. Sorry, sir, you're saying something?
One more point I would make, Barkha. See, morality matters, though
Yeah.
people may disagree. Even in the world of combat, when India operates from a moral high, so much restraint all these years, it matters. If I may quote Abraham Lincoln from another context, he said, "Sell your brain and brawn to the highest bidder. Never put a price tag on your heart and soul." So the Indian military is that. We will do well in whatever we do, but we also have a soul. We will not resort to the petty tactics of the Pak military. कि किया कुछ नहीं और मतलब your narrative is
I actually think that it speaks to a confident military and a confident nation, General Shukla. Just this will be the last comment from you, because I don't want to take up more of your time. That General Chauhan is able to say in front of the world media, sure, in battle, a tactical recalibration can take place. If we made an error, we rectified it. We went all guns blazing. We destroyed their air bases. Story over. But it takes a confident country and a confident military to say that.
absolutely. And I have a favorite phrase for this, which I keep saying. India is a mature democracy, powerful democracy, where it knows how to leverage its instrument of force in its strategic calculus. And here is a professional military, very proud of its professional attributes, yet totally subjected to political control. That is, I
Absolutely.
think, the ideal frame of a democracy.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that is why the armed forces remain India's most trusted, loved, beloved, respected institutions. There is a
And
reason for it. And
I can't
yes,
help making a comment on our counterparts across Pakistan.
please do.
Unprofessional military bucking political control.
Absolutely. The difference couldn't be starker. General Shukla, always a pleasure. Always learn so much from you. Take care, sir. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Bud.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.